or making offers. If I really do find them valuable, I try to find a way to do that raise. So a lot of times, to be honest, if the boss is really not that inclined to give it to you, it's because you haven't shown your value, which is really important. And if you can't, if they can't remember your value, then you have to articulate it for them. You have to show them this is the value I have. So this is why I always say go above and beyond, so that when you ask for a raise, if you do a negotiation, then it's easy. Then for them, it's why not? Even if it's 5%, something, just to show appreciation.
All right, thank you so much, Chika, for joining me in the studio today. All right, thank you for watching. I remain your host, Irene Ubani. Thanks to my team, and remember, for more exciting and insightful content, do follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube on Plus TV Africa. Bye.
Welcome to The Advocate. Prepare for a lot of exposition on this edition.
And like Fela once said, I know one die, Papa day for house, Mama day for house.
Debts are not repaid from GDP, they are repaid from revenues, which we don't have.
If you don't repay your debt, they will just colonize you.
Because people will like to ask, what did you do with the taxes I already pay you? Can I see it?
You know where you're light skin, you're more maintenance.
Yes.
Like, why? Don't push that. No. I'm like, no. I'm just saying
that.
I'm like,
I don't do any maintenance. Okay, wait, let me see your plan that I can get
my point is that, why you, can I be
and a baby boy on top of that. Why would you bleach a baby boy?
Allow him to be. Can it become almost a criminal offense to do that?
I hope so.
You're killing the baby.
Some lawmakers are involved.
On the border closure, there seemed to be a glimmer of hope with the new conditions set by the Nigerian government.
Bringing in goods that are smuggled into Nigeria. That engagement must be held.
You cannot assign 37 billion naira for renovation of a National Assembly complex. You are not happy with such.
I would almost tell you that maybe 80% of Nigeria's budget annually is mismanaged.
Until I see the president arresting the IG, arresting the INEC boss, then all those people in charge of election in this country, questioning them, taking them to court. Why did that of Kogi and Bayelsa happen that way?
The strength of a true leader is anchored by the love for the people they lead.
Leadership quality of a man is tested, others excessive provocation.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission was not meant to intimidate voters.
For revolutions to be effective, they have to be spontaneous.
Hello and many thanks for joining us on News in the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are some of the stories making the headlines. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, says there is nothing wrong in having cabals around the president, Muhammadu Buhari. Shehu shared his opinion soon after while addressing a cross-section of journalists in Abuja. He condemned the abuse of the word cabal in Nigeria and said there is no government in this country that we have had that some people were not accused of being cabal in that government, and it is because every administration and every president must have a secretariat. Every president must have people who advise him. It is not a sin. It is not an offense to have people that you take into confidence. Elsewhere, they call it kitchen cabinet, but in our own country, we are being derogatory and we term them cabals so that it will tarnish their good standing. And now joining us to talk about this is the spokesperson, Atiku campaign organization, Segun Sowunmi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Nice to be here. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Your thought on this twist to the word cabal from the presidency?
It's unfortunate. I think when the First Lady, Her Excellency Aisha Buhari, called Garba Shehu out publicly just a couple of weeks ago, I had imagined that was she like, overreaching and probably being unfair to him. Now, listening to that which has been attributed to him, as far as I'm concerned, Garba Shehu has just demarcated the president, his boss. No spokesperson of a president can say that. Why? Because there's a context to which that adjective is being used around his principal. Yes, nations and other countries and even kingdoms have people that are close to the power, and they call them the power behind the scene. Those people usually are appointed people or those that are domestic aides of the president. In this particular situation that Garba is trying to justify, Garba is leaving out the fact that what Nigerians are actually saying is that his principal, Mr. President, has been hijacked, has been made to be incapable of carrying out his duty, and that some interlopers who probably are not titled people or appointed people are the ones now superintending over that responsibility, as per the comments of the wife. And the First Lady did also say that, in fact, the said Garba Shehu was also perhaps in the habit, if I get her right, of carrying out instructions contrary to that which her husband, the president, has given. And she tried to say relative to usage of her office and stuff like that. Now, if Garba comes to public say, I could have imagined that Garba would say, oh, gentlemen, these conversations are not the way they are. My president is in charge of himself. He's capable of managing himself. He runs his own show. He has, stuff to prop up the presidency. But what Garba has said is that Nigerians, yes, my principal cannot run the country. His friends and his relatives and people that have no business in his government and no title there are the ones in charge. And you Nigerians, you can call them cabal. Instead of you to call them cabal, why don't you call them a nicer name like power behind the throne and then go live with it? In my opinion, that's not how this job is supposed to be done. I think the responsibility that Garba has is to, first of all, mirror the president properly and to mirror it appropriately. And I do not really think that alluding or saying that that is good is in the best interest of the president. For me, it means that the presidency is totally broken. It has become irredeemably broken, and perhaps the president needs to take a look at what's going on around him.
In your opinion,
yes,
has cabal, do they exist in the context that you say that a wife is saying? And what is the implication for our democracy?
If it looks like it, if it feels like it, if it sounds like it, if people that are supposed to know who can be closer to a president than his wife? Who can be closer to a man than his wife? If his wife says it is, if other people whisper it as well, then perhaps it is. If there is a disconnect in the way they carry out their functions, for instance, you can look at the presidency and you can almost finger people who get almost anything they want around the president, and you can see the closeness they are to this set of people without undermining them or shaming them. Now, when you see all of that, then you probably say
what is the implication of this negative presentation for?
I think that I've been concerned about the presidency and its communication and narrative people, the spokespeople. I've been concerned about them for some time, and I'll tell you 5 things that have been worrying me. The first is that I've been seeing that they're speaking
as a remarkable one by political analysts owing to the conduct of the general elections and other political events that shaped it. As the year wraps up, our correspondent Mary Chinda takes us through some of the biggest story in this special report. And when we come back, our guest is still with us in the studio.
Hardly has any year been as politically anticipating and heated as the year 2019, the election year in Nigeria. like a clash of the titans. Over 90 political parties registered with INEC and at least 60 are in the number one seat, the office of Mr. President. The year kicked off with loads of political brainstorming in the camp of the major contending parties, the APC and the PDP. The APC, chaired by Adams Oshiomhole and fielding incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and the PDP, chaired by Uche Secondus and fielding former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi in a frantic effort to clinch power of the incumbent. The political space set gear in motion in January with Atiku Abubakar of the PDP making what could be described as a triumphant entry into the United States after 12 years for allegedly laundering over $40 million into the United States. The success of this trip, alongside then Senate President Bukola Saraki, was regarded by political analysts as crossing one of the most serious political hurdles on his part ahead of the presidential elections. Then, this long drama about the suspension and later the removal of the CJN Justice Walter Onoge over alleged corruption charges grabbed major news headlines as he stood trial on charges of non-declaration of assets instituted against him before the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The political permutations took a new twist with a coalition of young gladiators who believed Nigeria was ripe for a younger president. Inspired by the Not Too Young to Run movement, the Young Gladiators agreed to form a coalition championed by Fela Durotoye, Kingsley Moghalu, Obi Ezekwesili, and Omoyele Sowore, among other army of young Nigerians. But this political marriage was short-lived by a clash of interest. Former Education Minister and one of the two women in the presidential race, Obi Ezekwesili, resigned as the presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria on January the 24th, barely 21 days to the February 16 election. Like another movie suspense, hours into the election D-Day, February 16, the electoral umpire, INEC, announced the unforeseen postponement of the presidential election. The sad development sparked up a battle of words between major contending parties, the APC and the PDP. Finally, February 21st came, and INEC moved full swing into the presidential election. After days of collation, the electoral umpire declared the incumbent APC candidate, President Muhammadu Buhari, winner, defeating PDP's Atiku Abubakar after winning 19 states out of the 36 states, while the PDP took 17 states. Moghalu and Durotoye, who remained resilient, did not make it during the elections. The political gear, therefore, shifted to various states as Nigerians kept themselves busy with the manifestos of an avalanche of political parties and campaigns across several states. And March 9 gubernatorial election came with the APC winning Lagos State, Kaduna State, Borno, Gombe, Jigawa, Katsina, Kebbi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger State, Ogun State, Yobe, Zamfara, Kano, and Plateau State. And the PDP winning states like Abia, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Enugu, Oyo, Taraba, Benue, Adamawa, Bauchi, and Sokoto. Imo State was one of the embattled states politically as the power tussle between incumbent Governor Rochas Okorocha and the party chairman Adams Oshiomhole over his anointed candidate and son-in-law Uche Nwosu thickened. Unfortunately, the governor was thoroughly frustrated and toppled out of office as the PDP won the elections with Emeka Ihedioha, a battle Okorocha didn't see losing. Rivers State was another flashpoint, though incumbent Governor Nyesom Wike of the PDP returned elected. It was a tough battle put up between the PDP and the APC, led by its leader in the state, Transport Minister Rotimi Amechi, and his anointed candidate Toyin Cole, who in himself has a running battle with the Rivers East Senator Magnus Abe. In October, the Supreme Court dealt a sad blow to every ray of hope that the PDP and Atiku Abubakar had to take over Aso Rock, as the Apex Court dismissed the appeal filed by the PDP challenging the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari at the February 23rd poll. Embattled Senator Dino Melaye of the PDP was shown his way out of the Senate. He also lost a re-election for the Kogi West senatorial election rerun to his perennial rival and APC counterpart, Senator Smart Adeyemi. In the November 16 governorship election in Bayelsa and Kogi State, the APC defeated the PDP, adding both Bayelsa and Kogi State to its cart of victory, with David Leon in Bayelsa and maintaining Governor Yahaya Bello in Kogi State. As the year draws to a close, Omoyele Sowore, publisher of Sahara Reporters, who hit public consciousness with his Revolution Now protest, was rearrested. His dramatic rearrest, after being granted bail by Justice Ijoma Ojukwu of the Federal High Court in Abuja, is just like the running battle between the APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole and his aggrieved political son, which has created the major political crescendo of political activities and epic puzzle of the year 2019. Mary Chinda for Plus TV Africa.
We still have Segun Sherumi to review some of these big events in 2019. He is still with us in the studio. Thank you very much for staying.
Thank you for having me still.
Does this report capture for you some of the big events, political events of 2019?
It's not too bad, but there are areas where I would want to quickly chip in. For instance, to cover it a bit, I think it's important for us to let ourselves know as Nigerians that what really does an election mean? In my opinion, an election is, as it were, a referendum. A referendum to assess and review how people feel about those that are serving them, and a referendum to determine what the promises and the hope that those who are aspiring to serve them are bringing to the table. I think the 2019 election provided an opportunity for the Nigerians to determine precisely, relative to the things they're agitating on, which way they wanted to go. One of them is that they were looking, most people in Nigeria talk about the issues around the structure of the country, either through federalism, fiscal federalism, or some form of restructuring. We brought that on the table. Nigerians were talking about unemployment, whether they were, the level of poverty in the country and all that. That was on the table. Nigerians were talking about the tribal divisions and the ethnicity that was beginning to pull the country around national cohesion. That was on the table. Nigerians were talking about high-handedness relative to a much more...
Certainly, the reports wouldn't have been able to capture all of this.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say in the sense is that when we went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled the way they had, it was not a disappointment or a loss of whatever to the party and the candidate. No, it really was down to the Nigerian laws, all of us as a people, because by the Supreme Court judgment now, there are a lot of policy issues that are now not so clear in this country. One of them is, what's the role of an affidavit relative to a certificate? It's still an issue. One of the other is that, how do you prove an election has been rigged if you have just a certain number of days and you're going to have the umpire, INEC, to now become one of the aggrieved parties when you're coming for tribunal? These are all issues that we need to talk about. So as far as we're concerned, the 2019 election was a disappointment relative to the progress that Jega had made, all of us, PDP, Jega, everybody had made in 2015. By 2015, we had expected that going forward, things would have been a lot more improved. But you saw what the report said. Issues in Kano, issues in Rivers, issues in Lagos, and all of that. That's not how we should do it. And for us, PDP, and for Atiku, we have used our attitude to showcase the best of human conduct in participatory democracy. For we have not overheated the polity, neither have we been careless with our language or anything like that. We have done it how Democrats should do it. If we didn't get what we're supposed to get, we cannot be the ones responsible for that. At best, we are the victim of the system.
All right, let's look at your assessment. The elections have come and gone. However, it played out. It is our reality. We have a new government in place.
No, you don't have a new government. You have a continuation of the old one. A continuation,
yes. What is your assessment of governance so far? What will be the peak and the lows for you in 2019?
I think the only thing I can call a peak is that they've taken the budgeting process back to the 1 year fiscal, January, December fiscal year. Maybe I can give them as a peak. Aside from that, I think maybe if I want to be generous, again, I can give them a peak. I can give you another peak that, okay, they delivered at the federal level, not at the states. They delivered their ministers on time relative to the 9-month holiday they did in the first time. I think the presidency of President Buhari is confused. It's confused because it really doesn't understand that you cannot be too Gestapo in your approach to development and also be saying you are cutting private sector. One has to give way for the other. Private capital reacts in a particular way, and there is a way you stimulate the international community, venture capitalists, and all of that to bring money. If you are going to be waking up in the morning and closing your border unilaterally, you are going to be sending the wrong signal to them. If you are going to have a situation where rule of law is not going to be respected in your country, you're going to make potential investors afraid of if there be a litigation that requires them to go to arbitration, do they have comfort that the law will be applied as it should be and it ought to be, and is there freedom there? If you begin to show signs that you're not respecting freedom and human rights, you're putting people in jail, and when they're on bail, you're not letting them go on bail, you're going to scare people that are external.
That brings me to the issue of Showore. One of the biggest events this year.
No, it's not one of the biggest events, it's one of the events. The biggest event in 2019 was Atiku presidential campaign.
Okay, that is your opinion. I'm sure others will have a different opinion. But one of the events that, really made us stand up and take notice was the Revolution Now protest, as, chaired by Showore. And since then, we've had him arrested, detained. Several court orders have been given for his release. That is yet to be perfected. What is your reaction to the entire situation with the Revolution Now?
Let me break it down for you. First of all, I don't think that if you participate in an election and you lose, you should do all of those things. No. I think you should continue to speak. And you should continue to speak in a manner that you'll be bringing attention to issues. I don't think you should participate in an election and then you're trying to undermine government. I don't believe in that. But I think that a bigger problem was the careless handling of that whole situation by the federal government and its operators. Why? You see, they've run into this error because for the federal government of Nigeria under President Buhari, everything for them is a nail. And because every problem for the Buhari government is a nail, every solution to it is a hammer. Therefore, you see that the first thing they try to do, rather than to do reorientation, rather than to talk on the issues, rather than to build consensus, they just dive in on the deep end because they have the control of the levers of government. And invariably, they create a bigger problem than the one they had originally intended to create. That's what has happened in the Showore case. Now they're making the whole country now feel uncomfortable with what everybody considers as excess. What is the excess here? If you must arrest any man for a crime, you should have been ready with your charges before arresting him. If you are going to keep him in custody before you charge him, you shouldn't keep him for too long until people will be wondering why are you keeping him for longer than necessary. Now, if you finally put him before the court and you present him before the court of law in our country, and the court takes the view that his offense, whatever you call it, is bailable, and they give him bail, you are not doing Showore or anybody any harm by not obeying the bill. You are doing the whole country harm because they are not going to speak about that incident outside Nigeria other than to say Nigeria or Nigerian government or the Nigerian people. That's quite unnecessary. So all of that, when they now give you, when you finally decide that you are ready to obey, when the judge insisted that it's my country must obey and you brought him to bail, what exactly was that show of shame where operators were diving into the courts and doing all of that in this modern time? We didn't even see that in the military dictatorship. So for the Showore issue, it's the same scenario they put themselves in with the El Zakzaky issue. It's the same scenario they put themselves in with the Dasuki issue. is the same scenario they put themselves with a lot of other issues that require the government to simply obey the law. And
All
if
right.
the government obeys the law, the conversation and the consultations can take place in courts. But if the government will insist that when the courts have spoken in the land, they are not going to obey. The problem there is that the government does not even understand that it is actually the executive authority of compliance that is being undermined.
The thing about this, I think we don't have enough time to actually detail all the angles to the development, but I'd like to pick your brain on the latest coming from Edo State. And that's Isai Yamu, your former governorship candidate, moving to the APC, and the seeming feud between Obaseki and Oshomole, Comrade Oshomole.
When former governor, His Excellency Adams Oshomole when he emerged as the chairman of the PDP, of the APC, beg your pardon, when he did, as far back as when he did, I remember that I was on TVC for an interview, and they had asked me what was my opinion. And I had said that, look, Adams Oshomole as chairman of APC is a fundamental recruiting error. That his countenance, his mien, his attitude and all of that is going to cause a lot of instability for that opposition party over time. And you have seen what has happened. Let me tell you some of the mistakes.
We have less than 1 minute.
Less than 1 minute. It cost them Zamfara. They were not even on the ballot. It cost them Rivers. They were not on the ballot. He's making a mess in his own home state. For Pete's sake, what exactly is the drama in Edo that you will have governed Edo 2 times and you will have moved on to now become the national chairman, who's supposed to be the father of all your parties in the state, and then you will be the one that will be fingered in a crisis in your own state. So you then get the impression that somehow the APC is not a political party. It is a coalition of strange bedfellows who are incapable of seeing themselves as having a similar objective.
That has been reiterated for some time, but I mean, it's still debatable. What is your reaction to your former governorship candidate decamping to the APC? If you can do that in 30 seconds, it would be amazing.
When people leave political parties to another one, I hope that they are doing it from an altruistic, ideological viewpoint. But because it's granted them in their right of free movement, what becomes a problem for me is what I like to call hopping about like frogs. You hop from one party today to another party, you won't even stay in another party. You hop to the next party, you won't stay there. You can't do that. Participatory party democracy cannot survive or grow quickly if people are not ready to solve the problems within their party and allow it to grow. But you know what? The PDP has demonstrated great resilience, and it has also shown that it is a party that can survive even the earthquake, let alone the torrential rains.
Thank you very much for your thoughts on the news.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we go straight to entertainment stories now, where we hear that Nollywood actor Samuel Akimpelu passed away on Sunday, December 22nd, 2019, and his death was made known after his family confirmed his passing away in his home in Ikorodu, Lagos. The Mokali actor was hit by a stroke in March, shortly after the death of his wife. In April, he got the sum of 10 million naira from a popular philanthropist, Reverend Esther Ajayi, popularly known as Iya Adura. The donation came 2 weeks after the news of his ill health gained public attention through a video that went viral. Alabi Yellow has appeared in several Yoruba movies and also wrote a book titled Abaokoku. That's it on entertainment, and wrap things up at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also find us on YouTube. That's also at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines, so please join us again. Thank you for watching.
What's a budget? A budget is a statement of intent, right? It's a document that says this is what we want to do. So that's the plan. What's planning? Planning is a guide to an action. When you cannot execute your plan, nothing works.
There can never be expenditure if there's no income. Money is key in running the affairs of a nation.
The House of Representatives is set to investigate the sum of $396.33 million allegedly spent in 4 years.
Buying things that are not from here, they are creating jobs, they are transferring their own wealth.
Who is your customer? How are you going to grow?
Subsequently, over 5 trillion minimum revenue has been frustrated by the actions of Central Bank Governor and Managing Director of NIMS.
We have not invested to create the environment for the non-oil export economy to thrive.
It gets better, ordered another round. It gets better, ordered another round. It gets
I'm sure, as you can imagine, I get many. On a daily basis, I haven't shared this with anyone, but I reckon I get about like 100 people asking for help. A day. That's a fact. I can prove that. You know, so rather than, going through all my messages, my letters, my emails, my DMs, I decided that, I think it's important as a young person to make sure that I'm making a difference. And it would be almost, I could have started a record label and been used those resources to sign artists, but education for me is so powerful. I would not be here, fact, whether or not, anyone can argue that I would not be here if not for my education.
Nowhere, baby, we no tire. And baby, for the line.
On the border closure, there seemed to be a glimmer of hope with the new conditions set by the Nigerian government.
Bringing in goods that are smuggled into Nigeria. That engagement must be held.
You cannot assign 37 billion naira for renovation of a National Assembly complex. We are not happy with such.
I would almost tell you that maybe 80% of Nigeria's budget annually is mismanaged.
Until I see the president arresting the IG, arresting the INEC boss, then all those people in charge of election in this country, questioning them, taking them to court. Why did that of Kogi and Bayelsa happen that way?
The strength of a true leader is anchored by the love for the people they lead.
Leadership quality of a man is tested, others excessive provocation.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission was not meant to intimidate voters.
For revolutions to be effective, they have to be spontaneous.
Hello and welcome to One-on-One on Plus TV Africa. I'm Elsie Godwin. On this episode, we're one-on-one with the creative director and founder of JB Multimedia Studios, founder of VR360 Stories, and a documentary filmmaker who made history at the Venice International Film Festival as the first African to win the Virtual Reality Awards for his VR docu-film, Daughters of Chibok, Joel Akachukwu Benson. Thank you for being here. Okay, so it's easy for anyone to aspire to be you right now, right? But there's a struggle and there's a story behind this success that everyone is seeing now. I saw you talking about how the split of your parents affected you and how you were once an Okada rider and now you are winning. Well, at least you rode it, right? So how would you describe your journey so far?
I mean, some people would say inspiring. I don't know. I've just lived my life one day at a time, but with my eyes on the end game. You know, so whatever it is that I have to do now to get to the next level, I'll do it. So if it was, going to someone's house to go and help him clean up his house so that he could show me how to edit, if he was chasing up people on the phone so that they could give me some information that I needed to get, you know, if it was, you know, sleeping in church because there was nowhere else to stay, but I had to, well, lay my head somewhere, you know. So, I mean, all of those things, I never saw them as my destination. You know, it's always like, okay, this is just a bus stop. You know, there's somewhere else that we're going to. And yeah, just kept my eyes on the end game. And even here right now, there's still an end game.
So what's this end game right now?
I don't know. I guess the end game, because the end game always shifts, it keeps you constantly motivated. You know, so the end game is to be better than where I am now. Right? And that's you're never going to get there, because you'll always strive to be better. You know, regardless of whatever you achieve. If you win one award for your film, I guess you want to win another one, right? You know, if you make one great movie, I guess you want to make another one, right? So you don't rest on your oars. Just keep pushing yourself. Stay hungry.
Okay, so what was it like when you won that award? How did you feel climbing that podium?
It was one of those surreal experiences. Because I remember that when we sent in the film for the festival, I honestly wasn't expecting to hear back from them. But I heard back from them in a very short time. I think it was like maybe 2 weeks or something like that. And I remember that I didn't want to open the email. I just kept staring. I was like, what have these guys told me now? So something else said to me, hey, they've rejected you now. That's why it came so fast. You know, I'm like, well, I mean, I'll just open it. So I clicked on it. And then, you know, they were just increasing the suspense for me. Then I say, click on the attachment.
Okay.
Like, attachment. It's like, I clicked on it and it was a letter, you know, say, oh, congratulations, you know, your film has been selected, you know, to play in Venice and also be in competition. And that was like, wow. For us, that in itself was a big deal, because it was the first time, you know, that, you know, an African VR film would play in Venice. So we're okay with that. Went to Venice, have fun. It was fantastic. I was even preparing to start coming back to Nigeria. And then, you know, they said to me, oh, no, sorry, you know, we need you to stay around for a couple more days. And, you know, you'll be picking up an award. And that was... So we knew we were going to win the award a day before the award ceremony. You know, we were told. But it was... I remember when they told me, I was in tears. I was, you know... I didn't expect it.
All right, so documentary is a very interesting art. I don't think we have too many Nigerians that would gladly come out and say, I'm a documentary filmmaker, but that's how you like to describe yourself. So what drove you to choosing documentary?
Well, I mean, I've always been drawn to real stories. I think that we're not telling enough of those, especially in these parts. I'm drawn to real issues, you know, real human beings, real stories. You know, I've always been drawn to. So I mean, I guess that's what drew me. You know, so it's easy for me to see a film and say, okay, yeah, the script was well written and all of that. But in a documentary, it is what it is. You know, so if you say someone like Yana in my film that we took from Chibok to New York, I mean, how do you make that up? How do you script that? You know. And so that for me is so watching that makes me believe that it's possible for anyone. You know, anything is possible, just because I know that hers is a real story. And yeah, real stories have always intrigued and attracted me, like a moth to a flame.
Okay, what would you say is the challenge or the challenges of documentary filmmakers in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, documentary filmmaking is not as hip as fictional films, and so it doesn't get as much support, right? If you walked up to someone now and said, hey, look, I'm making a documentary film about so and so and so, and I need funding, you know, chances of getting funding will be slim. So I think that the greatest challenge for documentary filmmakers really is funding to pursue their personal projects. You know, I don't know yet of any grants for documentary filmmakers. There may be some that exist, but I've not come across any. You know, so I think funding is a major challenge. The stories are there, without any doubt. But how do you get to tell the stories if you don't have the funds? So for people like us, you know, we self-fund our projects all the way because we believe in it.
So what would you say about commissioned documentary? Do you think it takes away the art of the storytelling, or
the independence, right, of the storyteller? Well, it depends on what. So there are two types of commissioned work. I mean, there's commercial videos that someone says, "Oh, make me a documentary on my business." Well, I mean, you have to tell their story. But say I wanted to make something on police brutality, for instance, and I sought funding. I don't think the best place for me to go to would be to the Nigerian Police Force to fund me to make a film on police brutality, because it will be tainted.
Okay.
So I would have to go to an NGO that probably believes in, human rights, equality, and all that kind of stuff. But I also have to set the boundaries from the beginning, right? That, look, I would need my creative independence to tell the story the way I would like to tell it, So it's all about negotiation. You have to learn how to negotiate and navigate those landmines, so to speak, so that your artistic integrity stays intact. Otherwise you might as well just be making a commercial.
Okay, so what do you think every young filmmaker should be concerned about, especially in this digital age and things evolving so fast? What should they focus on and be concerned about?
Focus on the story and tell it honestly. Tell it from your heart.
Okay.
That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have, what kind of gear you have. Just focus on the story and tell it honestly. I mean, the film that we made that won the award, was side by side with studio budget films, right? And, we use better equipment, better, a more robust structure and system supporting them. But, we still came out, okay at the end. So I would say just follow the story and tell it honestly. That, I think, is the most important thing. Every other thing is secondary.
Okay, so we'd like to find out how you got into virtual reality. But before that, let's go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll carry on this conversation. Welcome back. This is 101 on Plus TV Africa, and we still have Joel Benson in here with us. So before I went on that quick break, I told you I wanted to know how you got into virtual reality, because I know you've been a filmmaker for a very long time. So how did you get into VR?
Into VR, right? Yeah, so I'm making this film in Borno State, and a friend of mine, Brahima Mohammed, says to me, "Hey, look, can we make something in virtual reality?" I'm like, "What's that?" He said, "There's this camera that if you use it and shoot, you now bring people into this place as if they are here." Like, dude, man, my camera is good enough. Let me just, I didn't take what he was saying very seriously. Fast forward a year later, a lady who I've done a lot of work for, Damile Logumbi, calls me up and says, "I want to make a 360 video in Kano." And I said, "But ma, I don't do 360 videos. What is that?" They explained to me. I said, "I don't do that much." She said, "Go and figure out how to do it and bring me my results." She's not someone that you can easily say no to. So I started doing my research. Cut a long story short, I had to fly out to go buy the camera and learn how to use it. And I remember the first time I wore a VR headset was in VR school in Chicago. And the moment I wore that headset, I remember what that guy told me, what Brahima told me, the year before. It's just this immersive experience. And it was just a beautiful experience for me. I was like, wow. So bought the equipment, did the training, came back to Nigeria, and that was it. My first project was in Bakassi, which was my first VR film, which is, arguably the first VR film out of Nigeria, really, And from then on, it's just been, no looking back.
Okay, so from what you said, that you had to invest in yourself to be able to make this happen.
Yes.
How much would you say, roughly speaking, that you invested?
In the beginning?
Yes.
It cost me about 5 M.
About 5 million.
Yeah.
So, virtual reality is like the new cool. Everybody wants to move with the trend and know what is going on. But this trend seems to be the one that is far-fetched, especially when you don't have the funds. So for a regular person who is picking interest in VR, where can they start from?
Well, there are cheaper cameras that you can start with, Google is your best friend when it comes to training.
Okay.
Go online and read up some stuff. So personally, if I can afford to go to a physical school, I don't like to do stuff online.
Okay.
I'd rather go to the school, pay the money, and learn it so I can ask all the questions, no matter how silly they are, right? But yeah, you can start online. You can read up on it online. You can buy a cheap camera. There are cameras are like $500, $600 that you can start with, and just get your teeth into the game and build from there. Remember what I said in the beginning? It's really, at the heart of it, is really about the story. If you make a great story, right, that wins an award or gets you recognized, then people will come and meet you and say, hey man, look, we want to make another film. Can you do it for us? Or people will say, we would like to invest in you, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm hearing all of that now.
Okay.
You know, that would be my 10 cents worth.
Okay, so why did you choose to tell the story of the daughter of Chibok using this medium?
Well, Chibok is a place, or the Chibok story is a story I've always been curious about. When the story broke in 2014, you need to remember that there were so many versions of that story. The government was saying one thing, international press was saying one thing, local press was saying another thing. So we didn't quite know. Even till now, there's still some shroud of mystery around what really happened to these girls. How did 276 girls just get picked up in the middle of the night in a community? And, you know, so I made up my mind that I would go to Chibok. Anytime I have the opportunity, I would like to go and find out for myself. So I was making another film that in the Northeast, you know, that took me around like 6 states, and we passed through Chibok. And when, you know, we stopped for a day or two, which now extended into a week, because I got very interested in what I was doing, met the people, met the women, met some of the girls, and then it was like, you know what, I'm going to stay here for a few more days and see what I can make of this story. That was it. It started as curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you think the VR medium was the best way to tell the story?
Have you been to Chibok?
I haven't.
Do you know anyone else who's been to Chibok, apart from me?
No, I didn't.
Great. So VR takes you to Chibok. That was the singular reason why. I could have done a regular documentary, which is what I was doing when I was there, you know. But I felt that because it's such a faraway place, and a lot of people haven't been there, but they've heard about it, I felt that with virtual reality, I could take them there and show them what I saw, sort of like relive the experiences that I had there. And I don't think we've been far off the mark on that.
Okay, so what were your feelings and emotions while you were conversing with the people of Chibok, especially the lady, the center of the character?
The women, yeah.
Yeah, what did you pick out of that?
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest emotion that you would sense there, or the strongest emotion that you would sense there is grief, right? They are mourning, they are still in waiting, and they're crying and waiting for their daughters. But I also saw a lot of poverty, you know, and when I say poverty, I don't just mean, a lot of people are poor, right? And I mean, for how long can you talk about that? However, in the case of these women, what I saw was just wrong. Now, these are women who have experienced a tragedy that literally brought the world to a standstill, at least for a few days. And then you still have them going through these things that are easily manageable. So you have parents who are dying off because of trauma directly linked to the loss. You have people who have stroke. They can't move now because of that. And I'm saying to myself, and I'm asking them, is there no therapy? Is there no one taking care of you guys, like, you know, asking, looking out for your welfare? And the answer is no. And I still think that's very, very wrong on so many levels. And so the Curiosity Project now became a campaign of sorts to use the film as a vehicle to draw attention to the plight of these women and say, hey, look, guys, we can't move on. We can't move on as a people. And I've always said, look, I could care less about, you know, what government is or is not doing. As human beings, we have a responsibility to each other. You can't be walking down the road and see you going through stuff and just walk by. You understand what I mean? And I think that that's what's happened, you know, for the people of Chibok, the women in Chibok. They are going through what many of us have never gone through, you know, may not be able to go through. And so they need our support. And that's what this film is all about, getting them all the support that we can get them, just to make their lives a little bit easier while they wait for their daughters. That's the least that you and I can do.
Okay, are these supports coming in any way?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of promises. A good friend of ours who joined, us on this mission, Stephanie Busari, came on board and just did everything in her power to make sure that, she could get Iyanna to come to New York, because the film was going to be shown on the sidelines of UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. And so we met quite a few people in the UN, and promises have been made, But I also think that it would be nice if, because let's be honest with ourselves, right? Woman leaves Chibok, goes to New York to go and seek for support for her people. And we have Nigerians. So I think that we can do more as a people ourselves. Some support is coming in, but more. We're trying to impact 276 families? So we need a lot more support to come in, because we haven't done anything tangible yet. We're just speaking to people and getting the funds, speaking to them to get the funds to come in. But, it's still a challenge. And we hope that, come end of the year, we'll be able to say, hey, look, Iyanna and all the women and all the men, this is what the world, Nigerians have been able to raise for you. Now you can take it, get something for your farm, get some therapy, get some help, and just know that the world hasn't forgotten you.
All right, so when you got there, I'm still curious about this story, right? When you got there, was there something you saw that completely blew your mind, something you did not expect to see at all?
So I told Iyanna, take me to your farm.
Okay.
Because she's a farmer, and all the women in Chibok are farmers. And then she takes me to this place that looks like a desert. And I said, no, ma, I want you to take me to your farm. This is not like we're shooting film or anything. Take me to your actual farm. And she laughs and says, my son, this is my farm. And she walks a few feet away and scratches the ground and brings out groundnuts and shows me. I'm like, this is a farm. I think that was something that really, really stayed with me. It didn't look like a place that anything can grow out, anything can come out from that ground. It was barren, it was dry, it was crusty, it was, all kinds of weird. But that's her farm, And I said, but why is it like this? He said, well, we don't have fertilizer. We don't have money to buy fertilizer. So I was like, okay, we'll see what we can do about that. So I think that's one thing that really, really stayed with me. It was one scene that really stayed with me in Chibok.
All right, let's go for another quick break, and when we come back, we'll definitely carry on this conversation. Welcome back. So I feel like, because I know you on a personal level, I feel like there's a personal inspiration that made you, that is fueling all the story you're telling. Although the story did not start after the very tragic incident happened to you, but I think there has been a change of balance in your mindset. So would you say the kidnap experience you had has kind of fueled your passion more?
I mean, I don't know. Getting kidnapped was, one of those things that happens to you once in a lifetime and stays with you forever.
Okay.
It wasn't I never expected it to happen, and I thought I would never come back from it. All right. And so when I came back, obviously, you begin to appreciate life a little bit more. And then you begin to ask yourself, okay, so what this means is that I can go at any time. When I do go, what will I be remembered for? What are the things that I would have done that have made any difference in anybody's life? Yeah, so I don't know if that's I wouldn't say that's what's fueling, because then it becomes, oh, okay, so go get yourself kidnapped and then you can get some inspiration to do some cool stuff. No, I just feel like it sort of opened my eyes to being, I said, ask myself some deeper questions, like why do I do what I do? What are the kind of films that I want to make? I mean, is this all about just, getting a quick buck, making money and all of that? And the answer for me was, you know what, look for the stories that matter and tell them, and play your own path in, leaving this place a better place than how you met it, right? Does that answer your question? I
think being kidnapped is one of those incidences that some Nigerians will experience, and they tell you it is time to check out, meaning it's time to leave the country.
Yes.
Did you feel that way at the time?
Oh, well, so I love Nigeria.
Okay.
People who are close to me will tell you that I'm someone that believes a lot in this country, regardless of, all the things that I feel are wrong. I still love Nigeria. I remember the first day I came out, when I was released, and my younger brother called me and my friend, it was a conference call. And the first question they asked me was, so when are you coming?